It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
He was hailed as a music magnate, a powerhouse behind the scenes, and a symbol of success in the hip-hop industry. But yesterday, that carefully maintained reputation began to unravel as Cassie Ventura took the witness stand. Diddy appeared visibly shaken as his former partner recounted deeply troubling incidents, accounts so graphic and unsettling that even veteran courtroom journalists were left in stunned silence. The man once at the helm of a music empire seemed powerless as Cassie laid bare every alleged detail of what transpired behind closed doors.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak off, the freak off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21. She was young. She didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For decades, Sean Diddy Combs moved through the music industry as if he owned it, because in many ways, he did. He built Bad Boy Records from the ground up, transformed musicians into global icons, and expanded his influence beyond music into fashion, liquor, and media. On paper, Diddy represented the pinnacle of success, a blueprint for turning hip-hop into serious business. But that spotless image, the meticulously crafted persona of a savvy entrepreneur, mentor, and cultural tastemaker, was allegedly concealing something far more troubling, if the current courtroom revelations are to be believed. While magazines praised his business acumen, while fans applauded his stage presence, and while the world admired his polished red carpet appearances, Cassie Ventura was reportedly enduring a starkly different reality. The contrast stunned everyone inside the courtroom. Here stood a man who, in public, projected professionalism, tailored suits, flawless grooming, and media-savvy charm. But the accusations unveiled a figure unrecognizable to those familiar only with his public image. Reporters noted that Diddy arrived on the second day of proceedings appearing every bit the billionaire mogul, flanked by a team of elite attorneys, offering nods of acknowledgement, even flashing the occasional smile. He looked like he was walking into a corporate negotiation, not a legal battle with his former partner. But that confidence quickly unraveled. Within 30 minutes of Cassie beginning her testimony, witnesses described a complete shift in Diddy's demeanor. The swagger faded. His assured posture gave way to visible discomfort. His composed expression began to fracture as Cassie recounted specific incidents from their relationship. His legal team frequently interrupted with objections, seemingly attempting to halt her statements at every turn. Imagine it. The man who once orchestrated careers and multimillion-dollar deals now unable to manage his own reactions. Observers said Diddy became restless, unable to remain still. The power balance had clearly shifted. As Cassie took the stand, all eyes were on Diddy. Witnesses reported his face turning pale, his body language uneasy. He fidgeted with his tie, then his cufflinks, then simply his hands. At one point, he began hurriedly scribbling notes and passing them to his lawyers, so frequently that one attorney raised a hand to signal him to slow down. One reporter described it as watching someone realize, for the first time, that they were no longer in control of the narrative. Another attendee said Diddy looked physically ill as Cassie calmly recounted details of their time together. A third witness noted seeing him close his eyes repeatedly, as if unable to face either her or the words she spoke. And this was only the beginning. As Cassie's testimony carried on into the afternoon, the The courtroom would soon learn why Diddy couldn't maintain his composure. The accusations she was about to make would reverberate across the entire music world, and potentially dismantle the empire he spent decades constructing. The man who had always shaped the story was now confronting a version he could neither edit nor spin.
At some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and said, and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. She didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, I know, you don't want to do it. And she said, oh, no, well, it's not that. But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, he would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense table.
When Cassie Ventura took the stand, the courtroom fell completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone knew this moment was coming, but no one, not even Diddy's high-powered legal team, was fully prepared for what she was about to reveal. After years of silence, years of holding back her story, Cassie finally had her moment to speak, and she did so with striking clarity. She began with the basics, which made the impact even more powerful. Cassie recalled meeting Diddy at just 19 years old. He was already a dominant force in the music industry, wealthy, well-connected, and powerful. She was an aspiring singer and young model. From the very beginning, the power imbalance was undeniable, and according to her testimony, Diddy knew exactly how to exploit that. Her account unfolded slowly, like a suspense film you can't turn away from, even though you sense what's coming. She first spoke about smaller acts of control, how he allegedly insisted on knowing her exact location at all times, how he would show up unannounced when she was out with friends. Then came the claims of career manipulation, threatening to shelve her music if she didn't do what he asked, allegedly sabotaging potential collaborations out of jealousy or insecurity. The courtroom was stunned when Cassie claimed Diddy had secretly installed tracking software on her phone. She testified that he often knew her location within minutes of her arrival somewhere. She described how he systematically isolated her from friends, cutting off those who might encourage her to leave. According to her, one by one, her support system disappeared until he was all she had. The judge had to call the courtroom to order 3 separate times during this part of her testimony. Diddy appeared visibly agitated, shaking his head, whispering angrily to his attorneys, reacting in ways the jury could clearly see. Each time the judge warned him, he would pull himself together, for a few minutes, before the reactions resumed. It was like watching someone who had always controlled the narrative suddenly realize they no longer could. Then came the moment that shifted the entire tone of the trial. Cassie retrieved her phone and handed it to her attorney, who began projecting text messages and emails onto a screen for the courtroom to view. The look on Diddy's face was unmistakable, utter disbelief. It appeared he never expected her to have kept those messages, ones in which he allegedly apologized for violent behavior, others in which he appeared to threaten her career if she ever spoke out, and messages that directly contradicted the statements his public relations team had issued for years. And those were only the beginning. As her testimony continued, Cassie began to detail instances of physical abuse. The room went completely silent as she described being shoved against walls during heated arguments. She spoke of an incident in Miami, claiming he pushed her down a flight of stairs at a rental property. But the most disturbing allegations were yet to come. She testified that, on multiple occasions, Diddy allegedly choked her until she nearly blacked out, only releasing her when she went limp. Several jurors were visibly shaken. One older woman was seen wiping away tears. A male juror reportedly couldn't bring himself to make eye contact with Diddy during the more graphic parts of her account. Even seasoned courtroom journalists admitted they weren't prepared for the level of detail in Cassie's testimony. And all of this, they said, was only leading to the hotel incident, the event that could ultimately blow the entire case wide open.
Cassie's relationship with Diddy. Some of those details we've seen in prior lawsuits, but to hear her on the stand actually giving those details, reliving those moments herself. Also, you have to remember, she's very pregnant right now. So I'm going to be curious to see how long she makes it on the stand, how she's emotionally able to weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him, around him for so long.
I thought I was going to die that night, Cassie said, her voice barely audible as the courtroom leaned in to catch every word. She was recounting an incident at the Four Seasons Hotel, an event that had never been reported by the media, never circulated among fans, and never leaked to gossip outlets. This alleged encounter had remained hidden for years. Cassie explained she kept it secret out of fear for her safety, fear for her career, and fear that no one would believe her over someone as influential as Diddy. But on the witness stand, she held nothing back. According to her testimony, what began as a routine industry after-party quickly escalated into something terrifying. She claimed Diddy flew into a rage after witnessing her speak with another music executive. She recalled how his smile vanished, how he grabbed her arm so forcefully it left visible bruises, and how he whispered threats in her ear, all while keeping up appearances in front of others at the event. The most shocking revelation came when Cassie testified that Diddy physically dragged her through the hotel lobby toward the elevators. She said she was crying, attempting to resist, and causing enough of a scene that hotel security intervened. But once the guard recognized Diddy, Cassie claimed, he simply asked if everything was fine. When Mr. Combs said yes, the guard walked away without checking on her. He didn't even ask me if I was okay, Cassie told the court. Then came the photos. Her attorney presented a series of images Cassie had taken the following morning. Pictures showing bruises on her arms, a split lip, and red marks around her neck. These weren't professionally shot images. They were shaky, low-quality mirror selfies. And that, some in the courtroom said, made them all the more disturbing. Cassie said she took the photos because she feared no one would believe her otherwise. Diddy's legal team quickly objected, trying to block the images from being shown to the jury. They argued the photos weren't properly authenticated, that they could be unrelated, and that they should have been submitted earlier in the discovery process. The judge overruled every objection, and the photos were displayed on screens inside the courtroom. The jury's reaction was immediate. One female juror reportedly covered her mouth in shock. 2 male jurors turned away, unable to look. A juror seated near the back began writing furiously in her notebook, her hand visibly trembling. This hotel incident was a bombshell that caught everyone off guard. There had been no prior mention of it in legal filings or public statements. Diddy's team was visibly unprepared. Their stunned expressions were noticed by nearly every observer in the room. Cassie went on to testify that Diddy hurled a champagne bottle at her, narrowly missing and striking the wall. She said he trashed the room, smashing a lamp, flipping a table, and punching a hole through a bathroom door. Most disturbing of all, she alleged he held her in that room for over 48 hours, confiscating her phone and threatening severe consequences if she attempted to call for help. As this part of the testimony concluded, everyone in the courtroom turned toward Diddy. His reaction, witnesses said, would become the defining image of the trial, and potentially the moment that reshaped his legacy forever.
I think what the defense is going to say is that this wasn't blackmail, this was not coercion, this was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, you know, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
It was the moment no one in that courtroom would ever forget. Diddy, the man who spent decades building an image as calm, composed, and always in control, completely unraveled in front of everyone. The polished exterior cracked, then shattered, revealing something far less composed underneath. This is someone who built an empire on being unflappable. The smooth-talking mogul. The savvy businessman. The icon who never showed weakness. But as Cassie's testimony hit its most explosive points, that carefully constructed persona began to fall apart. Veteran court reporters, many of whom had covered high-profile celebrity trials for years, said they had never seen anything like it. Diddy transformed, visibly, from the confident power player who walked into court that morning into someone cornered, unsteady, and visibly shaken. As the hours dragged on and each new allegation surfaced, he seemed to physically shrink into his seat. According to someone sitting just behind his team, Diddy's lead attorney kept placing a hand on his arm, trying to calm him. At one point, a note was passed that read in all caps, "Stay calm." But nothing was working. Tensions boiled over when Cassie described an incident at Diddy's Hampton property. He slammed his hand on the table with such force the sound echoed through the courtroom. The judge immediately intervened, warning, "Mr. Combs, if you cannot control yourself, I will have you removed from this courtroom." For a brief moment, it looked like Diddy might actually be escorted out of his own trial. Throughout her testimony, witnesses observed Diddy repeatedly shaking his head and mouthing, "That's not true," in response to the most damaging claims, as if forgetting that a jury was watching every move. One courtroom observer noted it looked like a man used to controlling every narrative, suddenly realizing he no longer could. For years, he allegedly controlled everything in Cassie's life. But now, she was the one with the mic. He couldn't silence her. He couldn't redirect the story. He just had to listen. Then came the breaking point. Cassie testified that Diddy had allegedly threatened her family if she ever spoke publicly. And that's when she dropped a bombshell. She had recordings. Actual audio recordings of Diddy making those threats. Her attorney played them aloud in the courtroom. Diddy stood up and shouted, "You know that's not how it happened." His voice cutting through the stunned silence. His lawyers physically pulled him back, trying to quiet him. It took 3 of them to restrain him as he attempted to yell over the audio. The judge called for an immediate recess. But the damage was done. Everyone had seen it. The jury, the press, the courtroom staff. The man once seen as untouchable had just proven how very touchable he really was. He was escorted out for recess. Diddy looked like a completely different person than the one who had arrived that morning. The mask was gone. And just when it seemed nothing more could surprise the room, Cassie revealed her most devastating card. She had been quietly collecting evidence for years. Text messages, emails, photographs, all securely stored where Diddy couldn't find or erase them. Then came a moment of total silence in the room as she revealed she had messages from other celebrities, famous figures who had witnessed Diddy's behavior firsthand. These weren't distant acquaintances. According to transcripts, these were some of Diddy's closest allies, his collaborators, his business partners, people who had seen what happened behind closed doors. Courtroom observers said Diddy's face turned pale as Cassie named these witnesses. His attorneys leapt to object, arguing hearsay, improper submission, anything they could. The judge reviewed the evidence in private, then returned and overruled every objection. The messages were ruled relevant and admitted. What followed stunned even seasoned reporters. Texts from a major rapper read, "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can stay at my place if you need to." A pop star wrote, "I've known him 15 years and I've never seen him act like that with anyone. This isn't normal. Please call me." The most incriminating came from a longtime producer who had worked with Diddy for decades. "I can't be around this anymore. I told him to get help. Call me when you're safe." Then came Diddy's own messages. Screenshots revealed texts where he appeared to admit to violent behavior. "I'm sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again." Another text read, "Whatever you need to make this right, just name it. New car, new apartment, whatever you want." A third exchange showed what looked like hush money offers. "My lawyer can draw up the paperwork tomorrow. 2 million, clean break. You don't talk about anything from the past 5 years." As these messages were read aloud, something telling happened in the courtroom. Members of Diddy's entourage, those who had arrived to support him, began quietly leaving. One by one, they exited the gallery, unwilling to sit through any more. By the time this part of the testimony ended, Diddy was left nearly alone, seated beside only his legal team. The wave of support he entered with that morning had vanished. Day 2 closed with Diddy looking defeated. The security around him couldn't shield him from what just took place in that courtroom. His decades-long legacy may be collapsing in real time. Cassie Ventura didn't just speak her truth today. She may have rewritten the future of one of music's most powerful men. The testimony, the photos, the recordings, the messages, they told a story that can't be unheard. The question now isn't whether Diddy can win this trial. It's whether his image will ever recover from what the world now knows.